Welcome to the Latino podcast, where we discuss the intersection of law and our Latino communities with legal, political, and community leaders and visionaries. Let's get started.
Hey everybody, it's John Gomez. Welcome to another edition of the Latino podcast, where we discuss the intersection of law and our Latino communities. We feature prominent lawyers, judges, elected officials, thought leaders, community leaders, and business leaders, all talking about how law and our communities intersect and interact. This episode, as always, is brought to you by our sponsor, Gomez Trial Attorneys. Gomez Trial Attorneys is a law firm dedicated to providing the very highest legal services, both in the Spanish and English languages, to consumers who have suffered personal injury, employment harm, civil rights violations, harm by virtue of defective products. We pride ourselves as being binational, bicultural, and best in class. That is, we have offices both in the United States and Mexico. We offer language appropriate and culturally sensitive legal services. And we believe that we do so at the very, very highest level. That's why we maintain that best of class demarcation. It's important to us. And so today we have a very, very special guest, a friend of mine, who happens to be in town in San Diego. That's where we are today, all the way from Hartford, Connecticut. He is a renowned lawyer in the spaces of, medical malpractice, personal injury, and now mass torts is leading and really the brainchild of one of the most important mass tort projects in the country. And that is Jose Rojas. So thank you, sir, for being with us today.
Hey, John, it's a pleasure to be here. As I've told you many times, you're an amazing trial lawyer, and what you're doing for the Latino Hispanic communities is really, you're a national figure in that space, and it's an honor to be here with you.
Thanks so much. And so, Jose, tell us a little bit about yourself, your childhood, how you found your way to law school in Hartford, Connecticut.
So I was born in Madrid, Spain, since birth, an Atlético de Madrid fan, not Real Madrid, certainly not Barcelona, but I grew up in Spain. I attended American schools in Spain, and when I came to college, I decided to come over to the United States, and sort of it all went from there. As they say, I met a girl, and there was no going back. But so I've really been in the United States since about 1990. Go back to Spain frequently. I have mostly a personal injury medical malpractice firm in Connecticut, and that's where I spend a lot of my time. But it's been an interesting ride. I can tell you that. I'm sure we're going to get into some of those things today.
For sure. And the name of your law firm is Ventura Law?
It's so I'm actually associated with two firms. I'm with Ventura Law, and then I also have a firm called Levin, Rojas, Camassar Reck. That second firm is the one that handles mostly the mass tort side of my practice and the medical malpractice side of my practice, and then through Ventura Law I do personal injury, more sort of run-of-the-mill personal injury.
Got it. And so talk to us about growing up in Madrid, Spain. How was that? What are your good memories as a young boy?
Well, fantastic. I mean, Spain is a beautiful, wonderful country. There's really, in terms of lifestyle, I don't think there's a better place on earth. San Diego comes close. I tell you, I spent some time yesterday walking around the town, and your weather's beautiful. Very similar to Spain. We get more sunshine, they say, than any place on earth, but I bet San Diego's pretty close. Weather's dry. The people are warm and friendly. Warm weather tends to bring that out, I think. It gets people out and about socializing. And I just remember growing up, my family was diverse. My mother was Irish American from Boston who had moved to Spain and met my dad and never came back. So, I just grew up in a really interesting environment with exposure to two cultures. And that's very near and dear to me to this day. I try to champion diversity all the time. And like you, the majority of my clients are Hispanic. And Connecticut has a very large population. And I feel very connected to the community through language and a lot of cultural similarities. But Spain, is obviously I'm a big soccer fan.
That's a good place to be a soccer fan.
Not a bad place to be a soccer fan. Got to go to a lot of games, played through my youth and into college. And so I get back to Spain whenever I can. I still have obviously family there, and I make as many trips as my time allows.
You're a pretty, big guy, tall guy. What'd you play in soccer?
So you may not believe this, but I did mostly play striker.
No, I could see that, like around the net, like.
Yeah, that was being a little bit of a bully inside there, pushing my way into headers, and but look, I think it's one of those things where like I tell my son, it's easy to be a superstar in high school, but that next step is a whole nother thing.
And so, is he contemplating following in your footsteps? Does he want to keep playing soccer through college?
He'd like to. He's a much better player than I ever was.
Did he go back to Spain ever to train over there?
He hasn't, although we've contemplated it. So
he's a better player than you, having grown up and trained in Connecticut?
He has natural gifts that I did not have. So he can run. He has the speed, the agility that I lacked. I was more of just a big bull out there, But he's got the things that I think, it's still another level. Like I said, and I always remind him, you got to keep pushing, like everything in life. If you have a goal, you got to give it all, and so we'll see where that lands him. He actually did have an opportunity to go to Spain with a program there that seems really interesting, but I just don't think he's ready to kind of leave the house just yet. He's only 16.
He's not going to do like the messy thing and move away from his country at the age of like 12 or whatever.
Gosh, I mean, being in that Barcelona academy, what do they call it? La Masia, I think you get a tremendous education, and I mean, your nutrition is looked over, everything is kind of given to you, but at the end of the day, family is family. For sure. And I think that's more important.
And so, just as an aside, me and my family spent almost 3 weeks in Spain this summer. We loved it. We were in Barcelona, and we spent like 2 weeks in Mallorca, which was like the most incredible place ever.
It's beautiful. Yeah, I did my senior trip in high school to Mallorca.
Oh, really?
Yeah, my whole high school.
I could see it, man. Like, it was super nice. So before we kind of talk a little bit more about your practice, and we're in this organization together, me and you, we can talk about that. But you said something that was interesting to me, that a lot of your clientele in Connecticut are Latinos, maybe speak Spanish. Out here we have a heavily, Mexican community. Obviously, we're like, as we stand, we're probably like 12 miles from the border. And so we tend to represent a lot of folks with ties to Mexico, Guatemala, Honduras, but probably mostly Mexico. What about the folks in Connecticut? Where do they come from?
So we have a very large Puerto Rican community. Okay. I'd say that is probably the biggest sort of singular group. But really, there's a big Mexican community as well. There's a big Peruvian community. There's a decent sized Colombian community. I mean, it's very, it's close enough to New York that's kind of, I think a lot may come to New York and then kind of move out to Connecticut at different points. But without a doubt, the Puerto Rican community is certainly in the Hartford area. I think we have one of the largest, maybe even the largest, per capita demographics of Puerto Ricans in the country. So, I interact a lot with the Puerto Rican community. But I get it all. I've had Argentinian clients, I've had Colombian clients, Ecuadorian. I'm not sure there is and I even have Brazilian clients who they seem to understand me really well. When I speak Spanish, I can't understand a word they're saying in Portuguese. But we manage. It's close enough that they certainly can understand me. But I don't think there's a country in Central and South America that I've not represented a client from.
I love it, man. That's cool. So do you get dip your finger into Puerto Rican culture or food, like in your community?
Yes. So I find Puerto Rican and Cuban food very similar.
Oh yeah.
They both make that pork that has like the skin on top, like roasted, and a little bit of the fat. And, that with some beans, man, it's rock and roll. So absolutely. I mean, Hartford has very much celebrates its Puerto Rican community. There's a lot of restaurants. There's a Puerto Rican Day parade that highlights a lot of the cuisine. So for sure.
I love it, man. That sounds super fun. And so, a quick question. Do you ever, we are starting to, add to our team internationally. We have a bunch of our intakes people in Mexico, and, we're starting to hire, folks from places like Colombia and Mexico. Do you have anybody on your team that we would call a virtual team member from Latin America?
I don't. We keep it very local. Everyone at our firm is in Connecticut. I think there are going to be some opportunities for sure. We just haven't really felt the need. So it's again a service our community. We tend to at Ventura, for example. We've had really good luck having bilingual staff that has been with us for decades, most of them or many of them. So for now, no. I'm certainly open to the concept and the idea. Puerto Rico's got that interesting situation where you don't pay federal income tax. So it's certainly if you're a resident there and legitimately operating out of there. But it's crossed my mind at some point for me to be virtual in Puerto Rico.
For sure,
so
a lot of guys doing that.
Yeah,
definitely some financial advantages.
If you've never been to the Mass Torts Puerto Rico, that's one of my favorite conferences.
Oh, really?
I've been there twice, and I love it.
Cool.
I just love going to that conference.
Next time you go, let me know. I've never been to Puerto Rico. I'd love to go.
From Hartford, it's a direct flight, and not too many places that you get directly to from Hartford.
Yeah.
To come here, I had to go up to Boston as an example, but just having that direct flight for me is amazing. It's a long road for you, that's for sure.
Yeah, that would be pretty far, but I've always wanted to check it out. I've heard great things, and hanging out with good lawyers in a beautiful place sounds pretty good to me.
Right.
And so
the hotel where they do it at is phenomenal. It's called Condado, I think is the name of it.
Condado.
I think so. And it's terrific.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. And this year we got the Super Bowl. I bet people are fired. Well, I don't know. Everybody's fired up, but I'll bet some in Hartford, Connecticut are celebrating Bad Bunny being the halftime entertainment.
I honestly do not understand what the issue is here. The poor man, I don't get where it's coming from, but other than just hate. But in Connecticut, in our Puerto Rican community, there's no hate there. It's very much appreciated.
Yeah, I bet they're fired up.
And talking about the Super Bowl, how about them Patriots? Back again.
So you would, is that your team?
That's my team.
Oh, very good. And it's kind of a new version, it's cool.
Yeah, Vrabel's reinvented them, he's totally different style from Belichick. By the way, you saw Belichick getting stiffed out of the Hall of Fame?
No.
It's ridiculous. This guy has, I think, 8 Super Bowls or something like that that he's been involved in. either as a coach or as an assistant coach. I mean, the idea that he's not a first ballot Hall of Famer is ridiculous.
So he went up and they voted him down?
They just, you get nominated, and he just didn't get the votes.
But he can keep.
Sure, he'll probably get in the next time. But the idea that, I mean, if he's not a first ballot Hall of Famer, that I don't know who possibly could be other than Brady, Tom Brady. I mean, just the level of accomplishment in the sport is
for sure, no brainer.
It's truly an outrage. I don't understand what it is. The media didn't like him, and the media kind of, I think,
they probably liked him less once he got his new sidekick.
Right. Well, they did. He was very rude to them back when he would do. He was just not a very friendly guy. He'd give one-word answers. So he was never much loved in the media, and I think the media votes for the Hall of Fame. Maybe some other people do, but I know the media has a number of sort of voters. So it's an odd thing. But anyway,
well, he'll go in soon.
Well, the Patriots are back there again.
Patriots are back. So, what are the line? Like the Seahawks are favored at this point.
I think 5.5 points.
Oh, okay.
Or 4.5, or 5. I think 5.5.
I think that'll be a fun game. I feel like even though the Patriots are in again, it's a totally different version. New guys, new coach, new style of play. Seahawks, same. Like it'll be fun, like to see not the Chiefs and
right.
And plus we get Bad Bunny.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm fired up. So talk to us. Like I know you're gonna talk to our lawyers in a little bit about this. You historically, as I understand it, have done mainly personal injury and medical malpractice. And then as I understand it, in the course of that, you kind of come across or discover or think about, what has evolved into one of the most important litigation for kids and children in our country. So talk to us a little bit about that. Talk to us about how you came up with this litigation, directed to prevent or protect infant children from some problems that are caused by cow-based infant formula.
Sure. So I first of all, I want to give credit to my partner, Stephen Reck, who is an amazing trial lawyer. And he's actually the one who basically got a call from a mother who had given birth at Yale New Haven to a premature infant. And this mother is the one who told us that she believes that it was the formula that her baby was fed that killed her baby. She was...
So the baby passed away?
Baby passed away, yeah. And so my partner met her at a McDonald's just outside of New Haven, and she told this, what at the time appeared to be an insane story, right? That one of the preeminent hospitals in the country, Yale New Haven, had fed formula manufactured by a name we all know, Similac, made by Abbott, and her accusation that the formula had killed her baby. But Steve, who, if you know Steve, he's really good at being an injury lawyer and a medical malpractice lawyer because he's one of those empathetic guys I've ever met. And so he met with her, he believed her, or certainly he believed her enough to go do some research. That's when he sort of dragged me in, and we did a lot of research on the medicine and the studies. And I remember going back to him and saying, Steve, we got something here. This is real. We uncovered that there were decades of studies showing that when premature infants are fed formula, that they are at 5 to 6 times or more risk of developing this disease called necrotizing enterocolitis. It's a deadly disease. And what it does is it basically, in a premature infant who has an underdeveloped gut, the gut of the premature infant basically responds to the formula like it's an invading thing. It's a foreign It's a foreign thing that's not supposed to be in there. And not unlike how COVID worked, it basically, it's actually the immune system that ends up doing a lot of the harm. So what you have is an attack on the gut by the body itself, and it necrotizes. It literally
Necrotizes, is that like flesh eating?
It's flesh eating.
Oh,
it can destroy significant portions of the intestine, sometimes within hours.
Oh my gosh.
It is a brutal disease that results in death about a third of the time, and results in life-altering injuries in another third. And there's another third where the babies end up generally okay. But the only ones that end up generally okay are the ones where there's a very quick and early diagnosis, and they stop feeding formula.
Oh.
Because as long as you keep feeding formula, it will continue. So babies that are low birth weight, very low birth weight, really should not be consuming formula until they're big enough and old enough to do so. Frankly, human milk, we all know, is the best. Sometimes, moms are not in a position that they can do that, but with premature infants, it is literally a life and death situation. And there's really no excuse at this point for not feeding babies either mom's own milk or donor milk. It's readily available.
At the time, like prior to you guys, coming across this problem, were there some hospitals that were banking human milk or having the moms on standby or providing human milk to underweight premature babies?
Yeah. So Texas Children's is one of the pioneers that I think at least for a decade now has realized that preemies really should be fed human milk. If mom can't make her own milk, which many moms of premature infants cannot, because
they're not like full term.
Right.
Okay.
So the body hasn't triggered the concept yet. In the mom, it's not ready theoretically. Many moms can breastfeed, but it is very difficult and very little comes out, and it's a process. And that's where donor milk is available.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Abbott and Mead Johnson have told the lie that there's not enough donor milk. But H&BANA, which is the national milk bank, has come out and said, if formula went away tomorrow, we have enough donor milk for every premature infant in the country.
No way.
So this is the lie that they've been telling the public, the Congress, and the courts. But it's patently just not true. And so look, when we started this litigation I think it's about 5 years ago now. It's been a long haul. It began as a medical malpractice case. That woman
against Yale New Haven.
Yeah, that woman that we met in New Haven. We started as a medical malpractice case, and that's when my partner and I kind of were looking at it, and we realized this has had to have affected a lot of people. At that point, Yale New Haven was not feeding donor milk for the most part. But here's the thing that's really interesting. We discovered in the course of our investigation that they had written to the Connecticut state legislature urging the state legislature to allow donor milk to be paid by Medicaid. And the reason that they urged the state of Connecticut was because they were highlighting the risk of necrotizing enterocolitis.
Oh, wow.
Yet they weren't doing it at their hospital for economic reasons, I assume. So we sued Yale. We then got a second mom that came in the door, and we sued Yale there as well. And by the way, in that case, it took 5 years, but we just got a $32 million judgment recently.
Amazing. Congratulations.
For that. So we believe that the hospitals and manufacturers, the hospitals and the doctors have sort of had what I consider to be a neglectful blindness. They've sort of just gone along with, the representations of the manufacturer that this is safe stuff.
And can they, like, let me back up. So like, I went to Yale for law school, so I remember a little bit about that community. You say like, there's like some poor kids and poor families around there. And so Medicaid would not, at that time at least, or Connecticut, what is it, Medicaid over there?
Yeah,
Medicaid.
so it's ultimately Medicaid. So in Connecticut at the time, it wasn't covered. It is now.
Oh, it is now. What about like back then, like good insurance? Would good insurance cover it back then?
It might have, but every insurance company is different.
Yeah.
I mean, in the end, it's a negligible cost.
Oh, really?
Yeah. These babies consume, they're so little.
Like how much you think? Like,
so I knew the answer at some point exactly because I briefed it.
Yeah, you were ready.
Yeah, I briefed it.
But not so much that the hospital should.
So in one of our cases, I did the math.
Yeah.
And to feed the baby for the entirety of the NICU stay would have been something like $400.
Oh, okay. Yeah, come on.
It's ridiculous, right? And keep in mind that the cost to society of once a baby gets neck,
forget it. Yeah,
hundreds
crazy.
of thousands of dollars.
Gosh. Yeah, of course.
But yeah, New Haven has demographically, it's not. There's some wealthy areas, but the city itself has a fair amount of poverty.
In the state, right? I mean, there's a wide disparity. You got like super rich people in Connecticut, right, and you got some people that struggle.
Yeah, our cities tend to be poor, and our suburbs tend to be wealthy. But the thing with necrotizing enterocolitis is, it has a tendency to impact certain demographic groups. So, a mom from Greenwich is much more likely to insist that her baby get human milk. And by the way, hospitals, in my experience, just having represented the Black and Latino communities, I don't think it's a stretch to say that the medical care received by poor and minority communities is significantly inferior. I just don't think they get the same level of care, whether it's because of money,
they're not getting paid,
insurance, exactly.
They're not worried about being sued.
Right.
They're not dealing with like dad's a medical malpractice lawyer, mom's,
Exactly. It's true. And money talks, right? So, when you don't have good insurance or you don't have insurance at all, what we do know is that that necrotizing enterocolitis affects Black and brown babies at a dramatically increased rate. And so,
because like they're more often premature and underweight, or something physiologically about them?
It's hard to say, right? I think part of it is probably that they are getting less human milk. I think that, education is probably a part of that, right? So, the formula companies have really tried very hard to make formula create an equivalence, a false equivalence. Right. So they talk about, the idea they trigger certain things like, you're a working mom. And, so they trigger these emotional things that almost, they did an ad, for example, that talked about, they painted lactating moms as these know-it-alls, who are looking down on formula moms. Right. So they're creating this dimension of almost resistance that some moms, I remember when I first told my sister about this case, her immediate reaction was, I'm a working mom, I couldn't breastfeed, right? So there was this natural antagonism that her first reaction, was to me saying, this stuff is pretty bad. What's important to remember is we're not saying formula should go away. We're saying that formula for premature infants is extremely dangerous.
Sure. And that's a limited, window of time, a smaller population. And so what about like the doctors? Like, could the formula people go, hey, like we supply it, the doctors are the ones making the call. Like ultimately, if this stuff's so bad, they should be on the hook as opposed to us.
Yeah. And so look, it's a great question because I think it's the one that we've battled with in the court cases, right?
What's the legal term for that?
So they're saying exactly what you just said. And it basically comes down to a couple of legal terms. There's a couple of legal concepts that now triggers. One is so there's the learned intermediary doctrine. It's not just that. I'll get to the other problem in a second. The learned intermediary doctrine is a doctrine that in product liability law that pertains to the duty to warn part of the case. These cases are generally made up of two components, duty to warn and defective design, right? On the duty to warn side of things, there's a concept that you if there's a learned intermediary, you don't need to who's
because the packaging is going to go to them or
correct.
Whatever. Yeah,
right. So that's part of the issue. The other issue pertains to what they call warnings causation, and they're basically saying a warning wouldn't have made a difference because the doctors already know.
Right.
So that's sort of the nucleus of the problem. The answer to that is complex, which is why we're sort of
why all these lawyers are working on this.
And by the way, their lawyers are pretty good on that side, as you can imagine. Yeah. They're highly paid people, and they are not afraid to throw, to one case, they'll throw 20, 30 lawyers at it. But the answer to that is I'd answer it in a few parts. Number one, doctors are really busy. Even neonatologists who are experts are having to keep up with a lot of things. And the formula industry really does, in a lot of ways, and control is a really strong word. Maybe there's a better word, but in essence, they control what these people hear, what they learn. They sponsor the different continuing education that they attend. They have really pushed the idea that growth, packing on weight early is this, life or death thing in its own right, when human milk is more than adequate for these babies if it's properly fortified. So there's this, I'll give you an example. There's a case pending right now. It's actually one of the bellwethers. In that case, the nutritionist, the dietitian who made the decision or contributed at least significantly to the decision to switch this baby to formula, was actually a paid contractor for Mead Johnson.
At the time?
Wow. So she's an employee of the hospital, but she is being paid to do speaking, promotional things. They paid her to attend learning seminars, which of course, in those learning seminars, they talked about the virtues of their formula, and how it's important for growth. There was even one seminar that she attended, I can prove it, that she was specifically told by the medical director for Mead Johnson that if you keep babies on donor milk too long, it's not good, that they should be switched because the growth failures will be dangerous. And of course, that's not the medicine. And it flies in the face of what the defendants are telling the courts.
Yes.
Which is, everybody knows that human milk is best and that, if it's available, it should be fed. That's not true. They say that to the courts. But what they're telling the doctors is what I just told you.
Sure.
And so look, it is a complicated issue. And with good lawyering, they've put up a good, fight. In state court, there's been two very large verdicts, as I think you're aware. One was, I think, about $60 million. The other one was $495 million. We just got a $32 million verdict against Yale. But in federal court, some of these arguments have proven persuasive, and the initial bellwethers have been fallen victim to summary judgment. So we think we can overcome these problems. The judge has told us what we need to address. and I know that the leadership is doing that. But listen, it wouldn't be a fight without good lawyers on the other side. We have great lawyers on our side, and I think ultimately we're going to prevail. We are prevailing.
Right.
The verdicts speak for themselves. There's a common sense to all of this, that I think jurors, it's why this is a country, we trust our justice system to juries, to normal men and women, to use their common sense. And when they hear that, listen, you have something which creates a 5 or 6 time or greater increased risk to a premature baby, why would you feed that?
Right.
It just doesn't make any sense.
No.
And so, I think economics is part of it. Ignorance is part of it. I don't think the doctors are as informed. I've done a number of depositions of doctors now, and I think they have a sort of a broad sense that human milk is obviously best. But I don't think they understand the gravity of the risk. I don't think the majority of them know that. And it's embarrassing for them to admit that they don't,
Right.
When a good lawyer from Meade Johnson pulls out, studies and says, you read the American Academy of Pediatrics, publications, don't you? And here's this that says there's a 10-fold risk. You must have known that. You wouldn't, that's put out by the American Academy of Pediatrics. It's difficult for the doctor to say, no, I didn't know that, right?
I didn't keep up on the literature.
Yeah. But that's why I have always believed that we need to, just because the doctors have some fault doesn't mean the manufacturers don't.
Right, yeah.
I've always believed that this is it has to be a bilateral attack. The doctors should have known better. That's the definition of negligence.
Right.
What you knew or should have known. The manufacturer, though, knew.
Right.
And they didn't care because they were worried about their bottom line. And so when I weigh sort of the fault in my own head, I see the doctors as being negligent. I see the conduct of the manufacturers as frankly outrageous.
Intentional.
There's a level of intentionality or reckless disregard, at least.
Right, yeah.
And so that's why they're getting, the $495 million verdict in Southern Illinois was, $400 million of that was punitive damages. Wow. Because the jury saw this is really ridiculous. We can prove what they knew for a long, long time. And they don't even bother putting a warning. How easy would it be to put a warning? Of course, they can't now because that would be an admission of liability.
Right, yeah.
So they got to settle the case first, and then they'll put the warning. But, the reality of it is, how difficult is that? And if you did that, if you just put a warning on the product, are you telling me that the doctors would not now turn around and warn the patients? Because the patients don't know. No. We represent over 1,000 clients for necrotizing enterocolitis. And I've spoken to hundreds of moms, and none of them were ever told of this risk.
No, before your case, I never heard of it.
And, we've heard these stories of moms that are able to pick up cars to save their kid.
Right, yeah.
This amazing strength that a mother, can engage to protect her young. If a mother knew that her baby was 5, 6, 10 times increased risk of a deadly disease, are you telling me she wouldn't find a way to get this baby
100%.
human milk? Why would you take the risk?
Yeah.
Why?
Agree, because you didn't know. So what about, so how many cases are there total, would you estimate right now?
Nobody knows. And the reason, and I will give you an estimate, I'm not going to shy away from the question, but with the caveat that it's truly a guess, but an educated guess. So the reason nobody knows is because most of the kids
they're still
are affected.
Minors, right?
They're minors.
So they don't have a statute yet.
Right. There's long statutes of limitations, and I think a lot of law firms are just holding on to cases without filing them. So with that said, we ran some numbers early on when we first began marketing for these cases, and we calculated how many sort of cases there are per year that happen, and then we kind of built in a model of, obviously not everyone's going to go get a lawyer, but my estimate is there's maybe somewhere between 10 and 15,000 cases out there.
Okay.
That might be aggressive, and it may prove that a lot of these cases, some of them are not all meritorious or provable. Right. In some cases we can't, because they're older, we can't even figure out who manufactured the formula. We don't even know who the correct target defendant is. Obviously it's one of the two, because, it's almost always one of the two, Similac or Enfamil. And there may be some legal theories that can be used to sort of go after them, even if we can't identify specifically which one it was. But putting that to the side, obviously this is going to be a fight, and, the defendants, if they ever do decide to settle, they're probably going to be looking at certain types of cases that they're willing to settle and others that they're not. So I think there's a lot to be learned still on that front.
Have some hospitals and doctors started, listening to this and changing their ways? I mean, that's the real win, right?
So for Steve and I, that is the real win. And it is the single greatest achievement of my career. It is now actually a rarity, I think, for formula to be fed to premature infants under
amazing.
1,500 grams.
Think all those kids you're saving.
It gives me the chills. There's two things that give me the chills professionally. I had at the very early start of my career, I was a federal prosecutor. And when I would get up in front of the jury and I'd say, "Good morning, my name is Jose Rojas. I represent the United States of America," that brought me chills. Wouldn't bring me as much chills today, but it brought me chills then, because how much I love this country, still love this country. But when I talk about this subject you've brought up, it is one of those things that is so emotional for me, because, I think most lawyers go to law school. The vast majority of lawyers go to law school because they truly want to make a difference in society. There's other ways to make more money. And we dedicate ourselves to this profession because that license really does give us the ability to effectuate change in a positive manner. And, having handled countless personal injury and medical malpractice cases, I always felt I was doing good. I always felt I was bringing a solution to an individual family, but I always kind of felt that I wasn't making a more global difference. In other words, I'd get money for someone who was victimized in a car accident, but people would keep speeding. People would keep using their phones. It didn't change anything. I'd sue hospitals for egregious behavior. And I'd get money for the family, but the egregious behavior continued to happen. This is a little more remarkable because of what we just talked about. My belief that my partner and I actually changed how premature infants are fed. And so I don't think we can take, full credit. I think there was already a shift that was happening. But I think we definitely nudged it along. And, if I sort of ended my practice tomorrow, I think I'd end it with a fair amount of satisfaction in the belief that I played an important role in such an important area.
Amazing. And really, I know you're going to talk to our lawyers in a little bit about, how you guys came across this, and, hats off to your partner, because a lot of lawyers get that call. They're like, come on, it's Yale New Haven. Everybody, they've been doing infant formula forever. But he drove out to a McDonald's. So,
He's a character, Steve. I love you, brother. It's true. I really believe that, unfortunately, it was meant to be him. I think a lot of lawyers would have
brushed that off.
They would have brushed it off. Yeah. It's too ridiculous. It's formula is killing babies.
On.
And but there's a lesson there, and I'll tell your lawyers in a minute. believe your clients. You know, they have more involvement than we do, especially at that point. You know, when you have a mother coming in and saying what she's saying, it's not likely baseless. And we owe it to our community to at least try to peel the onion, you know?
Yeah.
We do
You can't be a know-it-all, you know? You can't be like, you know, like you got to have an open, you know, dumb mind and just accept what people tell you and then at least explore it, you know?
Right. Yeah, or you know, look, here's the proof is in the pudding. When we started doing the research on the studies showing the dramatic increased risk went back decades. Decades.
Wow.
You're telling me some lawyer hadn't already been consulted about this?
Yeah, right.
I guarantee you dozens of lawyers were consulted about this, but nobody really peeled the onion.
Yeah.
And Steve did. And like you said, hats off to him. He's an amazing lawyer and truly someone who cares about his clients. He brought me in to be the bulldog. So. He's
the empath. You're like the enforcer. Yeah, it's just like being in the box. You know, taking out defenders and you know elbowing goalies and doing all the stuff.
You know what good strikers do. Yeah. When you go up to header it. You lift off the other player's foot.
Yeah.
You jump off his foot. He can't come with you.
He can't go. He's too late.
I can't tell you how many goals I scored that way.
I like it, man. So, you know, the funny thing is we have a case that we're about to file that reminds me of what you're talking about, and we'll talk about it after we go off the recording. But like as we close out, let's talk about this thing that you and I are involved in called Shades of Mass. And so I think you were on the board before me. So talk to our people about what this is, what we're trying to do, you know, what you like or don't like about it.
So I love Shades of Mass. It is, when I was asked to join the board, it was an immediate yes. I was very honored to join the board. I think what the organization's doing is hugely important. So let me back up if I may. So mass tort is a pretty sharp elbow business. So in my own history, we started the litigation. We were working on it for at least a year and a half before anybody else joined. And once the word got out, you have these very wealthy, successful law firms that want to get involved. And they have a tendency to push smaller players out of the fray. So in mass tort, one of the things that is relatively important to do is to be appointed to leadership. In federal court, these MDLs get formed and a group of lawyers get assembled to essentially run the litigation. Historically, the folks that are appointed are good old boys. So it's,
right.
They're the same players, repeat players over and over and over again. And they have the ability to push you out because they say, look, we have the experience, we have the money, get out of the way. And I can tell you, I experienced that myself. And even though I was not a member of Shades of Mass, when the leadership slate was being decided, someone by the name of Fu and Ben Crump, who were both on our board, they kind of came in and said, "This is ridiculous. You know, you have a community here that's being represented. A significant percentage, if not the majority, are actually black and brown, and you're going to appoint a group of leads that
are neither of those things,
neither black nor brown, and so,
let alone didn't come up with the litigation.
And there's a long history of people that come up with litigations and just get cast aside. So we were in a little bit of a unique position in that we did a couple things right. We, first of all, quietly marketed for a long time before we let the cat out of the bag. And as careful as we were, and when we let the cat out of the bag, we actually tried to do so in a way that would protect us. So we were conscious of it, and yet there was still a little bit of an effort to not cast us aside, but push us down the totem pole, right? And when Ben Crump and Fu sort of storming into federal court, they just changed the conversation, and that's what got me appointed to the leadership in that case in federal court. Without that, I think I would have had a leadership role, but I wouldn't have been a lead. So what does Shades of Mass do? Shades of Mass is now an organized way to push the courts to ensure that there's diversity in leadership appointments. Shades of Mass is dedicated to the idea of mentoring and bringing up young minority Black and brown lawyers, teaching them the ropes, giving them opportunities, having them have some leadership roles, not necessarily at the highest level of leadership, but in some involvement so that we can start grooming young lawyers to enter those positions. The organization is out there. We release papers. We're educating the community, but educating lawyers as well. And I think it's playing a really important role, and it's bringing a lot of attention to the lack of diversity in these cases. It's really important because a lot of these cases do affect Black and brown people at a disproportionate level.
And so Fu, to give her credit, she's our friend. Her whole name is Deandra Fu DeBrosi. She works at DeCello Levitt. And she is Afro-Latina, so has both of those backgrounds. Ben Crump, probably everybody listening knows who he is, but really one of our nation's leading civil rights and really just great lawyers for people. And so we're part of this group, you and I and a bunch of great lawyers, them included, are part of this group that tries to promote diversity, both in leadership and provide pathways to lawyers to become involved in these big cases. And so now it feels like diversity, DEI is like an illegal, terrible thing. Have you observed some blowback now to the concept of this? Or some judges a little more wary? Maybe before they were very open. Have you personally seen or heard about a little bit of slowing of this or no?
I really have not. Look, I think if you're a judge that is inclined to not care about diversity, you certainly have the ability to not care. And you'll effectuate that lack of caring. If you care, you don't need to make a spectacle out of it.
Right.
You don't need to say, I'm appointing at least two Black. No, it's just, you just do it. And you appoint qualified people, and you're in your own mind, you recognize that when, you come from diverse backgrounds, it can only help. These cases are led by committee for the most part, and having diverse perspectives and thoughts and ways of thinking can only ultimately better the final decision making. By the way, the other thing, it's a totally different form of diversity, not ethnic diversity, but these cases also lack lawyers that come from single event trial backgrounds. Right, many of the lawyers that are involved in mass tort were kind of raised in it. It's what they've always done. And the problem with that is, and I'm not saying they all are, there's plenty of lawyers in leadership positions that do have real trial experience, but there's a lot that don't. And when they do have trial experience, it's of a nature where they've been part of trials where you have 10 different lawyers and they're part of the trial, but there's a difference, sure. John. I mean, when you conceive of a case from the beginning and you work it up through discovery and then you do the trial, your brain operates in a different way. Because you and I, as trial lawyers, the very first thing we're thinking of when we get a case is our closing argument, right? I mean, I do. I'm thinking, okay, obviously there's some cases that I've done so many of, like car accidents. It's a little bit more, second nature. But when it's a newer case that I haven't, I'm thinking, can I get a jury to believe me on this? And is it convincing? And can I win this case? And how will I win it? And those are the things I'm thinking about at the beginning. And I think it's that trial experience, having tried a ton of cases and having won my fair share, but also having lost cases, those losses have a really good education behind them. And I carry those with me and ensure that repeat mistakes are not made based on what I've learned through those cases. So I think we need more trial lawyers in mass tort, lawyers who have themselves, not part of a committee, but themselves been responsible for a case from beginning to end. And I think better decisions will get made in mass tort cases if we have that come in. There are plenty of qualified and amazing single event Black and brown lawyers. For sure. And we should be drawing from not only their ethnic diversity, but the important diversity they bring to the table about how they've tried cases, representing people from those communities. So this is really important work for Shades of Mass. And, the DEI thing, I think these things have a way of, I think we'll find ourselves in a different position at some point in the future once we overcome the current chaos.
For sure. Good way to end. So, thanks so much for being here. I'm excited to have you talk to our folks real quick. One thing I often ask our guests to end with is, and I take this, there's a guy, Osotava, that does a podcast. He's a Mexican entrepreneur. It's called Cracks. And so like his guests, he refers to them as cracks because they're well-accomplished folks. And he always asks them at the end, if you could write in the sky a message for everyone to see and to live by, what words would you write in the sky? So what would your words be? Jose Rojas.
Juntos podemos.
Juntos podemos. Yes, together we can. A lot like kind of si se puede, but we can as a community do great things together. And you guys, change the trajectory and lives of thousands of infants and families. So you guys juntos si pudieron. So congratulations to you.
Gracias, John.
Okay, so that concludes this episode of The Latino. If you like. Before I go quickly, Jose, where can folks find you if they want to learn more about you?
So you can find me on either of the two firms' websites, www.venturalaw.com or www.lrcr.law. If you Google me, Jose Rojas, attorney, I've done enough of these podcasts now and other things.
That folks can find you.
I think I'm relatively easy to find. That's probably easier than trying to remember the website. But just look me up. A Connecticut lawyer, Jose Rojas, and I'm pretty confident Google will treat me right.
Amazing. All right. Well, now that you know how to find him, if you like the podcast, follow, share. Really blessed to have you here with us. Good luck with the work that you're doing out here, and good luck in the completion of this very righteous litigation. And congratulations to you and your partner and all involved.
Thank you, John.
Thank you for listening to the Latino Podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.